Thank you, Karen. I'm Emily Newman, she, her. The Washington Ethical Society Community Relations Committee strives to create opportunities to build a community that is welcoming, caring, and respectful. We support all of us as individuals, parts of a congregation, and engaged participants in society beyond these walls in becoming more aware of ourselves, our impact, and our potential for growth. So it's fitting that CRC is leading a platform post-elections on the theme of repair, because it connects beautifully with the 4 sections of the WES's Community Pact. Improving communications, which emphasizes the importance of direct, clear, respectful interactions, appreciating each person's perspective and need to be heard. Sustaining positive relationships, which focuses on respecting people's boundaries and accepting responsibility for our own feelings and actions, especially when we do harm, even if unintentionally. Resolving conflicts, which encourages giving people time to process ideas and situations, working together towards sustainable solutions. And 4, building healthy community, which inspires us to be a nurturing, inclusive, multicultural community that supports growth and equity. These are ongoing practices needed in our relationships at WES, with our families and friends, with people we know, and strangers we may never meet, because although we might not always be together, we are still connected. And I welcome up Laura Steele.
Good morning. I'm Laura Steele. My pronouns are she and hers. Earlier, Amy was talking about a Japanese tradition and custom of a way of repairing. Sorry, this has been one hell of a week. What I'd like to bring you is a different perspective on repair. It's called Tikkun Olam. I wonder if there's anybody here who is familiar with that. Wonderful. So I'm going to give you a very brief little history of Tikkun Olam. It is, in its tradition, meaning repair of the world. This is part of the origin story that I'm going to tell you about in the Jewish tradition of how the concept of Tikkun Olam came about, because it does not appear in the Hebrew Bible. It does appear in the Talmud around 200 Christian era. And this is the story. In the beginning, there was, all right, in the beginning, there was light. But where did this light come from? How did it come about? And what do we need to know about it? Let's find out. In the beginning, there was the light. At the beginning of time, God's presence filled the universe. When God decided to bring the world into being to make room for creation, he contracted himself by drawing in his breath. We were just drawing in our own breath, forming a dark mass. Then God said, "Let there be light." And 10 holy vessels came forth, each filled with primordial light. God sent forth the 10 vessels like a fleet of ships, each carrying its cargo of light. But the vessels, too fragile to contain such powerful divine light, broke open, scattering the holy sparks everywhere. Had these vessels arrived intact, the world would have been perfect. Instead, God created people to seek out and gather the hidden sparks wherever we can find them. Once this task is completed, the broken vessels will be restored and the world will be repaired. So that's one of the origin stories of Tikkun Olam. Today, the phrase Tikkun Olam is still understood to mean repairing the world. And it has become synonymous with various social action and social justice activities, political activism, or in the broadest sense, ethical behavior. However, the term has broader implications regarding understanding of our purpose in the world. In some cases, the term refers to the physical world. In others, to the societal order, and in still others, to the dream of a fully realized divine manifestation. Here are some examples of how people from Brandeis University in particular and elsewhere have interpreted and actualized Tikkun Olam. This is from Rabbi Michael Strassfeld of Brandeis. He begins, in the 1960s and 70s, we had the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. The counterculture, which he was a part of, focused on challenging the establishment and changing American society. We felt elements of the Jewish tradition spoke directly to what we were trying to do. So, for example, the prophetic tradition was seen as legitimate source for calling for social justice. The prophets in the Hebrew Bible told the kings, "You're doing the wrong thing." They were calling for changes. This is also when Tikkun Olam began meaning something different for us in the modern era than it had in the past. It became the common term for Jews being involved in social justice. This is from Associate Professor of Environmental Studies, Prakash Kashwan. To fully understand the challenges involved in repairing the world, we must admit that our world is fundamentally broken in so many different ways. The world's broken environmental and climate systems do not exist in isolation from our political and economic systems. This is why I see this as a conjoint agenda. Repairing the ecological and environmental damage must be accompanied by repairing the political and economic systems. Otherwise, we will create short-term Band-Aid solutions that will not take us very far. And this from Assistant Professor of Philosophy, Umrao Sethi. Implicit in the notion of repairing the world is the assumption that there's something we have broken, something that needs fixing. Repair isn't just a matter of improving the world, but more specifically, rectifying wrongs that we feel responsible for. But to rectify wrongs, we first need a clear understanding of the wrongs themselves. She continues, I grew up in India in the 1980s. Colonialism is one of the wrongs that shapes my family and my country. While it's true that India was already independent by the time I was born, the country's history had nonetheless shaped much of my identity. Part of what's so devastating about colonialism is the erasure of the local culture, history, and language, really knowledge of your past and civilization. I grew up learning about the Holocaust before I knew anything about the Bengal famine of 1943, in which 3 million Indians died. My English vocabulary is many times larger than my Hindi vocabulary. I have decided to try and make space for people with backgrounds like mine in spaces traditionally conceived of as white, European, or male, and to insist that people like me have as much right to be in these spaces as anyone else. And from Bradley Cohen from the organization Lev Olam in Israel. She speaks of her participation as an Israeli participant in Lev Olam, an organization that pairs Israeli young people with organizations in India that provide services, materials, food, clothing, a whole bunch of things to the most vulnerable people in India. She explains the recipients are not the only ones to gain from Lev Olam. The volunteers do as well. For me, Tikkun Olam means not only improving the world around us, but improving ourselves as well. It's about identifying an area of need and then rectifying the problem in the most effective and efficient way. Tikkun Olam requires humility and the ability to learn and grow. It means serving people in the way they need, not in the way you think is best. It's about creating self-sufficiency, not reliance, she explains. There are many examples of Tikkun Olam, and I'm confident that each of you, in your own way, have taken on this precious concept and can think of others whom you know who are doing likewise. For instance, here at WES, we have global connections, all of you. We have our immigration team, our greeters, our Share the Plate, our tech team. All of this and so much more are ways we are doing our part to repair. And to close, within the historical context of God repairing the world to prevent social chaos, preserving the social order that might sound politically conservative to some, Tikkun Olam, however, is being progressively applied to ensure that those who are the most vulnerable would be able to live full lives rather than be restrained by a system that favors the more powerful.
This is where you are sore, like you've been hit in that very spot over and over and over again for years, and now you can't think about anything but that place that you're sore. You might be angry. I am angry. I am angry in a way where when I stop listening to music or watching a movie or interacting with someone, I start picking fights with people in my head. Mostly my father, who I will not be having those fights with. You might be sad. You might be disappointed to learn yet again who many of your fellow Americans really are. You might be scared. I am also scared. I don't want to make this about me, but it is worth knowing that I am a transgender person in an interracial gay marriage. And if you're here, you're a religious minority. And that is a scary place to be in the face of Christian nationalism, in the face of a heavily Christian fascism. The only answer that I have come up with that is at all satisfying is that we don't have to do it alone. Is that at the end of the day, my broken pieces fit with yours. And your broken pieces fit with mine and with each other. That where we are jagged, we can learn to make space. We can smooth each other out where that makes sense, but also we can hone those jagged spaces into things that pierce empire. I am so thankful right now for several things. One of them is being queer. Because the history of queer people is finding space and living despite everything. I am blessed to be in community with older queers who lived through the depths of the AIDS epidemic, who showed up for each other as they were rotting away, as they were wasting away, who stayed in community even though it would have been so easy to hide. At a moment on Tuesday night when I realized what was happening, I was driving home from the WES watch party, and the weight of what was going on hit me, and I thought, I should detransition. That would be safer. I will not. I will not. Because it is not, in fact, safer to hide. Me less alive, you less alive, will not make you any safer. I am thankful for the religious traditions that I am part of, for ethical culture, which teaches me that I can always choose to elicit the best in myself, and that doing that will help to bring out the best in other people. For Unitarian Universalism, which teaches me that everything is connected, that it's not just us, the humans, but it is the plants and the animals and the very dirt of the earth. I am thankful for the paganism that is my own, which is much more like religious naturalism, but quibbles. That tells me that I can go to the river and learn that you can keep going and change everything around you, but you can't expect not to be changed by it. That teaches me that the sun's gonna keep coming up, that the plants will die and then come back, That even when a wildfire destroys a habitat, there are new things that show up in that space. I'm glad to be here with you today. I'm glad for those of you who have been here a long time and those who showed up for the first time today. I'm thankful for your choice to be together. Whatever else is true, whatever else will be true, you do not have to do any of it alone. We are stronger and more capable of impossible things when we link arms, when we reach out a hand. You will do none of this alone. Your part is to show up. Your part is to keep showing up. To get out of bed on Sunday morning when you don't want to, and at least get as far as your computer and Zoom. But get your body to this building, too. And come on a Wednesday night for Wednesdays at WES, because having a meal together is one of the most powerful acts of community that you can do without trying too hard. It's going to be really important that we have fun together, that we experience joy together. Don't let anybody tell you that having fun and experiencing joy is frivolous. It is more necessary right now than it maybe has ever been in our lifetimes for us. Keep singing. Start singing if you don't. You don't have to be good at it. You just got to do it. Dance, be in your body, be with each other. Grab a hand and hold on. One of my best friends in seminary, still one of my best friends, the beautiful and talented Reverend Elena Rose Vera, used to tell this story about getting lost in the woods one day. It's worth contextualizing this wisdom with that Elena is a Jewish and Filipina trans woman from the eastern side of Oregon, a complicated place to grow up, as anyone, much less her. She got lost in the woods in Oregon one day. She was pretty scared. And then she found a plum tree with ripe plums on it. She realized that she was hungry, and that being hungry was getting her even more lost. She grabbed a plum, took a minute to figure out where she was, and found her way back to where she needed to be. In difficult times, she would say to me, "Somewhere in the forest, there is a plum tree." Beloved, somewhere in the wilderness, there is a plum tree. There is nutrition. There is the opportunity to stop and figure out where we are. And luckily, you are not alone in that wilderness. You're not alone in any of it. We will find plum trees and we will be a plum tree, and sometimes some of us will be plum trees and some of us will be people in search of a plum tree, and you see how this metaphor continues. It's time to get rooted. It's time to stay connected. It's time to reach out and be together. Don't let your fear and your anger close you off from each other. Don't let your sadness constrict you. Take the opportunity to be broken open, to get bigger. When your heart breaks, my heart is broken. When your heart breaks, Fill the cracks with gold. Don't pretend like it didn't break, but let it get bigger and more beautiful. I am angry and I am sad and I am scared. And I am also full of hope. Not easy, this will be fine hope, because, oh boy, it will not be fine. It is gonna be rough and bad. But if we hold on, we will get as many of us as possible through it. We cannot save everything, but we will save all that we can. And we will start right here, right now, together. I love you.